So we've seen how, given a week, a large organization, not just the Independence Battle Group with 8,000 people, but in fact the entire military complex of the United States was able to pivot because we planned, we educated, we communicated what we were doing. Now what was left was the execute. But change doesn't always come over time. Sometimes it hits us at the speed of sound. August 11th, a week has gone by since that fateful day when Iraq was invaded Kuwait. And I found myself sitting in the back seat of my F-14. And by the way, if you're not sure, those of you who have seen Top Gun, do you remember Goose?
Yeah.
I was Goose, but I lived. Spoiler alert. So I'm sitting in the back of my F-14 on what's known as the Alert 5 watch. And for the last week, we hadn't done any flying. We just steamed north to the Gulf of Oman. And today was the first day the battle group was going to fly our first mission in support of what is known now as Operation Desert Shield. Now, I wasn't flying the mission. My job was to sit ready in the aircraft to take off in case somebody decided that they wanted to come play with the battle group. You remember Ice and Slider took off and they got jumped by the MiGs and the call came out, launch the Alert fighter. That's what I was doing. And we had another F-14 crewed by my sister squadron doing the same thing. We're sitting there in the back of the aircraft. I got a ball cap on because you don't wear your helmet. I mean, I've stood this watch countless times in training at this point. I know what's going to happen. Nothing. I'm sitting there. I've got my tape recorder. By the way, folks, yes, we had tape recorders back then. It was all analog. And I am recording a letter to my fiancée. Meantime, I'm watching 4 other aircraft crewed by the most senior aircrew we have taxi to take off on the catapult because nobody wants to mess up this mission. This is being scrutinized at the highest level of government. One by one, they each take off, and I settle in for my watch. It seems like 30 seconds went by, but it was probably a minute or two when the loudspeaker system on the flight deck comes alive. Words I never expected to hear. Launch the Alert fighter. My heart starts beating. I mean, I've done it before, like I said, but it was always training. This is real life. We're right off the coast of Iran. They're little nuts. Are they attacking us? Is it the Iraqis? I don't know. What I do know is that I got a job to do, and training kicks in. Educate. When you train your people and you practice it, those habits kick in, and that's what happened there. Even though I'm nervous, and I'm frankly, I'll tell you right now, and I would never say this at the time because us fighter guys never sweat. I was a little scared, but I had a job to do. Ball cap came off, helmet came on, cockpit came down. Meanwhile, my pilot's starting up the engines, and we start taxiing towards the catapult. Now, my job is to make sure that they get the right weight of the aircraft set in a catapult. Otherwise, it's going to be a really short flight. If it's too much weight, they're going to break the nose wheel. We're going to have problems landing. And if it's not enough, we're not flying. We're swimming. Fortunately, they got the weight right. I give them a thumbs up, and now I have nothing to do but watch my pilot until after we get airborne. Meanwhile, he taxis the aircraft into the shuttle. It gets hooked up, and we watch as he extends the wings, and then the catapult officer takes 2 fingers, and he starts going like this. So you can't talk. There's a lot of noise. So he's just telling us, run the engines all the way up. Make sure they're working okay. The pilot pushes the throttles forward. Yep, looking good. And then we get the signal, 5, and you can see him jumping up. 5 hands going to stage 5 afterburner. You've seen it. The flame comes out the back end. That's raw fuel dumping in. It's the maximum amount of thrust we have. We're getting ready to take off. And the aircraft is literally like pulling, wanting to go. And the only thing that's holding it is this piece of metal hooked up to it. The pilot looks to his left, looks to his right. Everything looks good. Turns and salutes the catapult officer. The catapult officer checks the safety officers around them. Thumbs up all around. He salutes back, looks, touches the deck, and points to the bow. Bam! Second and a half, we're doing 150 plus miles an hour. We're airborne. Right away, I call on the radio to find out the vector. Where's the bad guy coming from? We got to stop him. There are 8,000 people whose lives depend on what we do. SLAP 99, that's our call sign. That's what we say on the radio, how we identify ourselves. SLAP 99, checking in for vector. Where's the bad guy? What I heard, I couldn't believe. It was completely different than anything I'd ever encountered in all my training. SLAP 99, come up PurpleNet for Slapshot. Now, I know you guys aren't in the military. PurpleNet just means it's secure. That's the radio we talked on when we want to talk about top secret information. And Slapshot was one of the senior crew members that just took off. Why am I talking to him? Turns out the two of the aircraft that took off, they have a transponder in them that we call IFF, Identify Friend or Foe, that enables us to identify them as good guys so we don't accidentally shoot them down, because that's not good. And you can only test it airborne, and they failed the test. So they can't fly the mission. So this top secret, amazingly briefed, detailed mission that's going to be scrutinized at the highest level of government, I'm going to have to fly it. Let's make things even worse. My wingman, he's from a different squadron. I've never flown with him before. We've never trained together. What do? We fall back on education. We fall back on our training. When you train your people and standardize how to do things, you can mix and match, you can plug and play, and it gives you versatility because you only need to talk about what changes, not the standards. He forms up on a wing. We know the senior pilot's in charge. That was Juice Newton, the pilot of my aircraft. So we've got the lead, which means me, is, by the way, the most junior man in this flight. I have to talk on the radio. I have to give the communications. That's my job. But we all know this. We take off, we get our vector, and we start heading over Oman, UAE, and finally we go feet wet. We go into the Gulf. All right, I've done this before. It's what we call a CAP mission, Combat Air Patrol. We're going to drill a hole in the sky, just make sure nobody takes off and bothers our boat. But, I mean, who's crazy enough to attack us, right? We're the U.S. We're the most powerful military in the world. Nobody's going to attack us. Yeah. Tells you why I'm not a prognosticator, right? Got that one wrong. Check in with the controller, and what do we hear? Vector, bogey, 230, 102 miles, Angels 4. Now that brief conversation with the controller tells us we have an unknown aircraft, a bogey. If he was a bad guy, they called him a bandit, but he was a bogey. We don't know what he is. 230, which is a heading where Iraq happens to be from us. Angels 4 at 4,000 feet at 100 miles. This happens to be the attack vector we were briefed on. Educate. For the last week, as I said, we were training on what we could expect from the enemy. How would Iraq attack us? And this looks an awful lot like it. Roger that. Meanwhile, Juice points the nose in the right direction, pushes the throttles full forward. We accelerate to approximately the speed of sound. Roughly 700 miles an hour. Our combined closure rate means we're going to cross this 100 miles probably in about 3 to 4 minutes. We don't have a lot of time to figure this out. Meanwhile, you thought my heart was racing before? Now I say fighter aviator's prayer. Dear God, please don't let me screw this up. I start looking on my radar. Immediately, we see the contact. Contact, 230, 100 miles, Angels 4. That's your bogey, I hear. Now I know I've got the right contact. All I hear from my wingman is 2, communicate. Yes, it's brief. 2 is his position in the flight, and that tells me he heard me and he's acknowledging he has the same thing. It's all I need to know. Why? Because we have standards. I know what that means. Roger that. Now, what I need to do is make sure this is a bad guy. I come up, I check IFF. Remember that test had failed? Does he have it? No, he does not. Uh-oh. This means this is probably not good. Roger that. Negative parrot, I call. Meanwhile, the miles are closing down. 100 miles, 85 miles, 80. We need to come up with a plan. Weapon status, I say. What's our plan? I hear back. red and tight, yellow and tight, yellow and tight. Yellow means it's non-permissive. Yellow means we have to confirm it's a bad guy before we launch. And tight means our weapons are not safe, we're not free. We can't just fire at will. Roger that, VID I called, eyeball shooter. I know it's jargon. What this means is that my job now is to go right at them, and we're gonna identify them with the TV on the front of our thing. At the same time, our wingman's gonna swing out and be in a position so as soon as we know it's a bad guy, boom, there it goes. This could be it. This could be the first kill of the U.S. battle in Iraq. And it's gonna fall on some lowly lieutenant junior grade. We haven't fired a weapon in combat in years. And it's all on my shoulders. Once again, please, Lord, don't let me mess this up. We start closing the miles down, 85 miles, 80. One more time, let's check it out. Oh, there it is. I got a good return. Let me confirm that. Oh my God, knock it off, knock it off. Friendly, friendly, friendly. Disaster averted. This could have been ugly. The rest of the day, pretty uneventful after that. Now I know what you're thinking. Yeah, but lives aren't at stake in my business. When things go wrong, nobody's going to die. I don't have that kind of pressure. But your business could die. So my call to you is, when you get back to your office, remember, plan, educate, communicate, execute. Run it up, get your engines going fast, and take off. Thank you.